Why?
It's best to get rid of that blood, I'll tell you that much.
Why?
You guys don't know anything about Gloria Ramirez, do you?
I think I went to high school with her.
Gloria Ramirez, how should I say this delicately? She was she presented at a hospital and pretty much got the entire hospital sick.
Ooh.
With the condition of her body.
Ooh.
Early in the year 1994, so this was February, Gloria Ramirez was by then in the late stages of a very aggressive metastatic cervical cancer.
Ooh.
And in fact, 6 weeks before that February 19th, she had unspecified ailments, painful ailments, but she had not been diagnosed with any specific form of cancer. However, at Riverside General Hospital, 8:15 at night, paramedics said Ramirez presented with severe confusion, a fast heart rate, which is tachycardia, and a belabored breathing pattern called Shane-Stokes respiration. Shane-Stokes is basically taking in a belabored, heavy breath anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes per cycle with deeper and deeper breaths, sometimes shallow, sometimes really heavy. So that's pretty much death.
Yeah.
This person is dying.
Knocking on the door.
It could be congenital heart failure. So Gloria Ramirez was administered to the intensive care unit and placed on oxygen, while also given sedatives such as lorazepam or Ativan and diazepam or Valium. So she was heavily sedated to care for her well-being in addition to the people she could be lashing out at. At no point in this entire endeavor did Ramirez react positively to the treatment. So the paramedics and staff immediately had to do something else. So they defibrillated her heart. Blood was drawn by a registered nurse. Her name was Susan Kane. And Ramirez, the victim at this point, was observed to have an oily glow about her entire body.
No one wants that.
No. This oily sheen. She looked like she was covered with a moisturizer. Following this entire event with the oxygen, the defib on her heart, the blood...
She got greasy.
It was really weird, right?
This patient is getting really greasy. Is it just me, or is she, like, really greasy?
She went from dying to, like, professional wrestling. Like, she was, like, ready, like baby oil ready to go.
Makes me think of on The Simpsons when Homer leans into the guy at the fry counter. My God, you're greasy.
The blood-filled syringe that Susan Kane drew from her smelled abnormal. It had a very specific ammoniacal odor. So it's
ammoniacal,
ammonia-like odor. The syringe was then passed to Julie Gorchinsky, a medical resident, to do further testing. Cholesterol.
I thought you were just gonna say, smell this.
Right.
To do a sniff test.
Do you smell this syringe, doctor?
Gorchinsky noted a very specific and off quality to the tube in that they were manila bits floating.
Manila or vanilla?
Manila bit sounds like a really good cereal.
Floating in. It was like almond. It was like almond crunch.
Yeah. The best part of a breakfast.
Manila bits.
Yep. Special K. So, like in her blood. At the same time, Susan Kane, who actually drew that blood sample, faints. She totally passes out, and mere seconds before, Gorchinsky walks to the nurse's station complaining of shortness of breath. Gorchinsky also passes out as a third nurse exits the room before fainting as well.
Damn!
So now this is 3 people fainting. After 45 minutes of CPR, Ramirez is pronounced dead at 8:50. So she came in at 8:15, and 35 minutes later, she's dead. During that time, though, the entire hospital was sent outside. Only a skeleton crew stayed behind to look after Ramirez. 23 people were treated for nausea, difficulty breathing, or anxiety, as you would hope they were treated for that. Of those 23, 5 were admitted to the hospital.
Wow.
The body was then placed in a hazmat-like situation in an aluminum coffin. A total of 3 autopsies were performed. The first just 6 days after her death in February 1994, the second 6 weeks later, and then the third was performed on a greatly decomposed body at 10 weeks.
Ooh. And they had to be wearing like moon suits when they went in there, like, the whole diver mask and everything. There's no way you get near that damn thing.
Was it Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman?
Oh yeah.
Is that the one with the monkey with the Ebola?
That's always with the monkey.
It always is.
Always starts with the monkey.
So there has been much speculation. They think that heart failure was a corresponding factor with kidney failure, so kidney failure might have shut down the entire heart. But there has been speculation, though, as to the true cause of this weird medical phenomenon. The entire staff working on Ramirez that night fell ill. Something has to be up. The Department of Health and Human Services placed 2 scientists on the case who interviewed over 30 hospital workers. Those who were at higher risk, those who actually drew the blood, interacted with bodily fluids. This woman was dying of advanced metastatic cervical cancer. She could have been hemorrhaging at any time, vomiting. Those who were at higher risk, they all showed normal blood work, and they all seemed fine. Those afflicted were primarily women, so it was classified, no shit, as a mass hysteria event. This is really funny.
Women's be crazy.
Since hysteria, after all, derives from the Greek word for uterus.
I thought it was for Def Leppard.
You read the wrong Revolver magazine.
Damn it.
Julie Gorchinsky, on the other hand, said, fuck completely off that bullshit. I contracted out of the blue hepatitis. I also had a vascular necrosis in my motherfucking knees, asshole. So explain that.
Damn.
A vascular necrosis, by the way, is death of bone tissue due to a disruption in the blood supply.
Interesting.
And even then, males are more commonly affected than women. Once a third party was called in on behest of the family, who, and this is so sad, Gloria Ramirez was being dubbed the toxic lady. 6 weeks before this, she didn't even know she has cancer. Now she has cancer. She's dying. So,
but she's got a cool name now, so, I mean, at least that.
A third party was called in, and it was postulated that dimethyl sulfoxide, a very powerful degreaser in gel form, was rubbed all over her body.
Just getting freaky.
And it may have been Gloria's self-medicated way to deal with the pain of advanced stage cervical cancer. Dimethyl sulfoxide has been marketed as an alternative cancer drug since at least the 1960s. This was 94.
That wolf guy? Is that wolf guy that's on Facebook all the time that's telling people to like eat crystals and live off nothing but water?
Yeah. And stay away from these 5 foods, and it's like the most delicious ones.
No, it's Ron Popeil.
Ron Popeil?
No, he's the one that made the rotisserie.
Yeah, that's the thing that like cures your cancer.
Rotisserie chicken cures cancer? The
Ron Popeil oven does, yeah.
Dimethyl sulfoxide, which is also known as DMSO, had been marketed as an alternative cancer drug since at least the 1960s. In 1994, she was 31, so she was born in 63, and it was already proven by the FDA to be carcinogenic in high doses starting in 1965. By the time she was just a little kid, maybe she didn't know about it, because, at this time, the internet wasn't a thing until the mid-90s. There was no internet back in 94, right?
No. I mean,
there was no WebMD.
Yeah, there wasn't anything like that. There was rudimentary internet, but not like
you had to have like the add-on of AOL, the WebMD, like additional disc,
or you had to go to a BBS,
the Rumble Pack.
Rumble Pack on AOL.
Any kind of cure-all potion for pain that included DMSO, and again, in these like black market, like a
Tiger Balm or whatever,
snake oil salesman. Yeah, it was always around 5%. She was buying 99% proof degreaser
going in
restaurant quality.
That's like how a fucking Batman villain starts, right? Like,
that's about it. She just didn't make it to the next scene. The next scene would have been badass, but she just didn't quite get there.
It was found early on to have a profound deleterious effect on eyesight, made people blind. It's a developmental neurotoxin. It destroys brain pathways. DMSO can cause drugs to more rapidly absorb into the skin.
Ooh.
So if she was doing 99%, that's really dangerous. It may also create adverse drug interactions. But nevertheless, this drug is still frequently found in black market cancer panaceas. So you still find this. Dimethyl sulfoxide, when interacting with oxygen, and this is what the pathologist tried to prove in a peer-reviewed paper that was well-received at the time. Dimethyl sulfoxide, when interacting with oxygen, of course, that was the first thing that paramedics and ER staff put you on, was suspected as a culprit because it turns out when interacting with oxygen creates, from dimethyl sulfoxide, dimethyl sulfone, which crystallizes at room temperature. So when the blood was taken out of her body, that was evidence that this DMSO was changing. It had seeped so far
into her blood and then was
into her body. It was crystallizing at room temperature. So when Gorchinsky, who was the second nurse, saw the manila floating bits in the drawn blood, that might check out. And then electric shocks from the defibrillator
just activated it.
Might have then changed dimethyl sulfone into dimethyl sulfate, which is an extremely toxic gas and has a slight onion smell.
Science!
But if you were to ever smell it, you are already poisoned. Yeah, you're done.
And once you get it's in your nose, it's in you.
I got the manila bits.
Kill me!
I can feel it in my face.
So these theories, and they are just theories, they pretty much figured out exactly what was happening, but they could never replicate that. So again, for 6 weeks, she could have been just permeating her inner organs to the point
degreaser
where she was absolutely,
a bomb,
toxic,
like a bomb.
And I don't want to say that toxic later, but she was actually creating this environment where she had no chance of surviving. And of course, she presented at the hospital with belabored breathing, confusion, tachycardia, fast heart rate. So yeah, she was already on the way out. However, these theories, while very close to what was happening, they have never been confirmed, replicated, nor advanced any further. And nurses didn't say her blood smelled like onions, only like what?
Ammonia. Cottage cheese.
So Gloria Ramirez did not deserve the awful end to her tragically short life. And she certainly doesn't deserve to be called the toxic lady.
Agreed. That's great. That's true. She could have been called the woman who killed everybody.
The woman who made some people pass out.
The woman who made everybody sick.
And gave a lady bad knees, too.
The woman who killed another woman's knees by using bad blood.
How about this? The woman who took everyone's breath away.
Nice spin.
There's other ways to do it. You can spin it.
Yeah. So, Tammy, what spin would you like on your death?